CM Punk finally calls in his favor. The last man standing GOAT is back in action, and KO just keep fighting. I am in a bit of a mood today, so let's get straight to the matches and just keep rising from somewhere as Rey Fenix debuts with a super kick, step up back kick, and Mexican muscle buster to win his first match against NXT Tag Team Champion Nathan Frazer. So Fenix is the ones, and this was a high-paced match with a flurry of new moves that you may not have seen in the WWE, including his Cancun tornado to the floor and a goodbye amigo kick followed by a fire driver, and this was indeed a pretty good debut, so he is 1-0. And then after the match, Berto told Escobar that he could beat Fenix, so Escobar got him that match for next week. But Frazer is the twos, and this was also his main roster debut, and he had nerves early on missing a suicide dive, but he was able to pull off a nice superplex final cut combo. But this still was not enough to take down Fenix, so he's 0-1, and I'm sure Fraxium is still just fine. And it's not often we get to see two men making a debut at once in a singles match, but something was not quite clicking 100%, but it was really tantalizing for what we may see in the future, so it gets an okay. Second, we just keep losing more blood as LA Knight shakes off Solo Sikoa's distraction to cause some blunt force trauma on Tonga. So LA Knight is the ones, and he featured slamming Tonga's head onto each turnbuckle and then several times onto the announce table, and he was ready for Sikoa to try to get involved here and knocked him off of that apron before his finisher, so he goes to 6-0-1 in one-on-one matches. But that means Tonga is the twos, and he had a really nice sudden crushing clothesline, but then he mocked Knight from the top rope, missing his own version of a megastar elbow, so he goes to 0-2 with both losses to Knight. Well, Knight neutralized Tonga with a ton of strikes in this one, and Tonga barely got into it, and so it proved to be pretty worthless as well, so this gets a not okay. Third, we just keep getting, well, the skull part right at least, so Sabin avoids Ciampa running at him, and Ciampa hits his head onto the exposed turnbuckle for an easy pin for Sabin. So that means the Machine Guns are the ones, and they had a few nice team moves as they always seem to do every single week. And this was again the case here, so they go to an impressive 5-1-1 in traditional tags and are the #1 contenders for the WWE Tag Team titles. But that means DIY is the twos, and Gargano had his head on a swivel, twice stopping a Skull and Bones by pushing his opponent off of the top rope. But their finishers were also foiled, with Shelley breaking up a successful super kick, fairy tale ending team move, and then they almost met each other in the middle. But Ciampa lost control when the ref saw him clearly going for a pin with his legs on the ropes, so he ran into that turnbuckle, and they go to 1, 3, and 2 in traditional tags. Well, you hate to see a match end solely due to WWE's ring equipment failing them, and that is exactly what happened here. And even with only 2 more SmackDowns to go until WrestleMania, this was not announced for a WrestleMania match, so for now, we'll see what happens, but it's a not okay. Fourth, we just keep an eye on the storm as Naomi shakes off a pre-match attack from Jade Cargill and pulls out a new finisher called the Modified Kneeling Low Blower to defeat B-Fab. So Naomi is the ones, and despite being in pain, she started the match just to get away from Jade and took advantage when B-Fab got her foot stuck on the top rope and knocked her off of that Tree of Woe and into that new finisher, so she goes to 3-1 in one-on-one matches. And B-Fab is the twos, and she had several big boots to get the upper hand, and apparently one too many attempts at them because she couldn't rally once her foot was caught, so she remains winless in one-on-one matches and is 0-3 in 2025. Now Jade blindsided Naomi right after she emerged from the back and then decided to take out several officials and security guards before she was finally restrained, so we have to give her a 1-month suspension. And then after the match, Naomi called out Jade again, and sure enough, Jade was right there to take Naomi down again. And so again, she battered several security guards. So we have to give her a second suspension, this time just for 2 weeks. Well, B-Fab showed some good offense again, but also her inexperience, while Naomi proved to be very savvy. And the big news was also that Aldis announced that Naomi and Jade will go one-on-one at WrestleMania, so that is, of course, okay. And in our main event, we just keep trading tables as Jacob Fatu beats the last man standing GOAT with a hip attack through a table after he somehow survived a superplex off an equipment box and through some more tables. So Fatu is the ones, as he ran and attacked Strowman before the bell, so that will get him a fine because the match hadn't started yet. And after a brief meeting with the steel steps, he was able to super kick and land 2 mighty moonsaults that somehow didn't finish Strowman off. He then also knocked Strowman over the announce table with a suicide dive, but it was his amazing recoverability that won him this one by beating count after count, and especially after that superplex through those tables. So he goes to 2-2 in one-on-one matches, and more importantly, is the #1 contender for the US title versus LA Knight at WrestleMania. But that makes Strowman the 2s, and he gained control with a chair shot to the grill as Fatu was running at him, and then followed that up with a freight train through the barricade, and kept the pressure on apparently during the commercial break so that he was able to deliver that suplex. But apparently no one man can keep Fatu down for a count of 10, so this is Strowman's first loss in a last man standing match, going to 5-1, and he's also 3-2 in one-on-one matches this year. And as always, we got more incredible stuff out of these 2 meaty men, and the big prize made it even more meaningful, so this has to get a double okay. And with only 5 matches on the card, let's go beyond the mat for SmackDown as CM Punk started the show, and he started off by thanking everyone to help him become a WrestleMania main eventer. Then Paul Heyman interrupted, saying Punk deserves it, and then asked him to tell the favor that he owes to him. So Punk said that he would tell both Heyman and Reigns at the same time. So at the end of the show, Reigns finally showed up with mere 20 minutes left, and he was his normal terrible self, calling the crowd good people, but not that smart. So Seth Rollins came out next, saying that Reigns doesn't live in the real world, and that reality always seems to bite him in the rear end. And he also repeated that Reigns could have stopped him twice, but now they're just waiting on that favor. So Punk emerged and finally gave us that favor, with Heyman saying that he has to be in his corner, which caused Reigns to immediately laugh, saying that Heyman loves and needs him. But instead, Heyman started crying, so Reigns scolded his wise man, telling him to tell him no. But Heyman finally spoke up, saying that he could not do that. So as Reigns walked Heyman into the corner, Punk attacked Reigns from behind and made Reigns go to sleep to end the show. Well, we have to give Punk a fine for that, but this is kind of embarrassing for the favor, right? Because there's not really much that Heyman could or would do for Punk in his corner at WrestleMania, especially with Reigns right there. But I guess we'll see what happens, so for now, this gets an okay. We had dueling pre-tape segments between McIntyre and Priest, with McIntyre saying that Priest couldn't explain his actions and face him like a man, instead attacking him and injuring his eye, causing him now to have an eye patch, and also causing him to pray, and when he does pray, bad things happen. But Priest later responded, saying that he was simply doing his job and then McIntyre screwed himself, and that he also points his finger at everyone else except for himself. But Priest said he is willing to be McIntyre's villain and will meet him in the middle of the ring next week. Well, perhaps Priest could have just done that last week when he was asked to do so, but I guess better late than never, so this gets an okay. We got another mystery vignette with that number 4 again. Have to say it's very spooky and probably needs to wait for a few more weeks, so it's getting a little old and gets a not okay. Charlotte and Tiffy met face to face in the ring, with Charlotte saying she made the right choice for WrestleMania because there's simply no comparison between the two of them. But Tiffy said that Charlotte's biggest competitor is actually the crowd, which it was tonight because they booed Charlotte so relentlessly that she was not even able to finish her response, and instead Tiffy called her a Nepo baby and said that Charlotte will be alone after she beats her. But this better be a 5-star match because I just don't know how much more of this we can take on the mic, so it has to get a double not okay. Nick Aldis announced a gauntlet match for the #1 contender to the women's tag titles, and one would think this would be a good thing, but 4 of the 6 teams have 0 or 1 total matches as a team. And since Zoe and Shayna beat Carter and Chance on July 15th, 2024, there is only 1 win amongst any of these teams, which just so happened to be last week when the Secret Harvest defeated Carter and Chance. So great job here by both GMs to book this very strange tag bout. So yeah, double not okay. On the men's side, Pretty Deadly and The Miz and Carmelo Hayes talked smack to each other backstage, and I have to say this is not a thing that I would have expected to happen a couple weeks from WrestleMania, but I guess we'll see those two in the ring next week, but still not okay. And lastly, Randy Orton RKO'd Nick Aldis after he said he had no WrestleMania match. So Orton has to get a 2-week suspension for that. But that only happened because KO announced he has a serious neck injury and needs to get surgery, so he will miss WrestleMania. No, I just can't do this. It gets a double not okay.